Hello and welcome to another Dragonstorm Studios video. And today we're going to be drawing a smile. So of course we have to choose the best smile in the business, and that would be of Jewel Staite. Jewel is such a fantastic actress, and I know her best from playing Kaylee on Firefly. And growing up, I watched this show a little bit after the fact. So I got the DVD after people had talked a bit about it, and the Browncoats had begun their campaign to try and bring it back. But I fell in love with the entire show, really. But Kaylee was such a cool character, and her smile just would light up the room, the soundstage, the entire show. I mean, she's just so fabulous. But I digress. So we're going to begin just by taking a picture that I've started here. You'll notice I did not put a lot of work into it yet, although I did take some time to get the eyes looking pretty complete at this point. And we talked about how eyes are probably the most important part of the human face. It's the first thing we look at. I would argue that the mouth is probably the second most important part. We're going to begin by just being aware of the space between the bottom of the nose and Cupid's bow, which is that little kind of dip at the top of the upper lip. And that is right about here. We've got to just be aware of the space between nose and mouth. And some people have a philtrum, which is a kind of teardrop shaped thing right here, but not everyone does. And we want to also be aware of how far to the left and to the right the mouth extends. So it kind of comes about middle of the eye. So right about here. And again, all of my little guidelines are going to be done really light, because I really don't want to have those lines show up later on. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll just make a little bit of an angle measurement, like I've done before, from the Cupid's bow to the edge of the mouth. So the nature of Miss Staite's smile is that her mouth curves up pretty much in line with Cupid's bow. So we're going to extend the mouth to here and to here. And again, I can just erase the lines I don't need. And I do that as soon as possible because I don't want to get confused. I don't want those lines to distract me as I'm working away. When we get to things like dimples, those little lines can get in the way. Very often we get a fairly straight upper lip, and in this case here it kind of curves and just extends to the edge of the mouth there. Dips a little bit at the end, it looks like. And same here, it's relatively straight, but then we get a little bit of a dip at the end. There we go. Very thin upper lip in the middle, and then it kind of thickens a little bit toward the end. So it kind of has a bit of a, almost like a roller coaster sort of shape to it. Comes up and then back down again. And again, everyone's a little bit different here. Some people have wider or plumper upper lips, and some people have skinnier ones. There's so many different variations, and that's what makes us all so interesting to look at. We all have the same number of features. It's just that they're slightly different in all of us, and it's that combination, that mixture of different features that makes us who we are. I'm going to do a quick angle measurement here at the bottom for this lower part of the lip. And there's a little bit, again, a little bit of a dip. Looks like it comes down before straightening out a little bit. And I'm just going to go back and forth a little bit here, checking my angles to make sure I'm doing this right. It's actually, I think, quite challenging before you get the teeth drawn in to figure out how much room you have to work with. And if you do give yourself too much room, there's the danger of making the teeth a little bit too big as well. So it really is a bit of a give and take, a bit of a gamble here and there as you go. Okay, and it looks like the mouth's a little bit wider on the left than on the right, which is interesting. You really get to know a person in terms of what they look like when you draw them. And I've always found that that is so very true in details of the mouth, which you don't really normally look too closely at. We don't tend to stare at people's mouths, well, I don't anyways, too often. And we've got nice and dark in the corners, and on both sides here, a little bit less on the right. And then we've got the slightly thicker lower lip. So I'm going to make that a little bit wider here. And the trick really is not to darken too much. The lips are darker than the skin around them, but not terribly so. Not to the point where they kind of become, the darkest possible tone. We've also got a little bit of a reflection. Make sure I'm not leaning into the camera this time. I've done that before in the past. Okay, and it's coming together nicely there. Okay, so I extended actually the mouth over a little bit more to the right. I just found that it was a bit too far away from the cheekbone. It's the act of the mouth smiling that causes the upturning of the mouth that causes the cheekbones and dimples to occur. So speaking of dimples, we're actually not going to use a pencil for this. We're going to use the blending stomp, which is of course that little wonderful tool, which is just paper rolled up into a stick and compressed. And from the corners of the mouth, we just have that dimple sort of forming here, and it's almost like a reverse C shape on this side. Curves down a little bit, and then it's less of a C and more of a K almost over here, because you kind of end up with the mouth just kind of turning into that shape, and there's that K we just kind of noticed. We also get a little bit more dimple over here. There's a bit of a fold happening up here as well. And it's that really subtle effect that makes them look so good. And if you were to use a pencil for that, it would just darken it too much. It would be too in your face. We want something very subtle here to create that smiling look. We don't want it to be the focus. The focus really is the mouth itself. So we can already kind of see that coming along nicely. Teeth, again, really tricky. I find that it's best to notice where the gums are first. So we have some gums right here, and that kind of just helps you because the gums end up being these almost like M shapes, and the M shapes help you determine where the teeth actually go. And because they are a light pinkish color, as I just kind of get this last set in there, we're gonna just, again, super lightly darken them in. We want them lighter than the lips around them because the gums are lighter than the surrounding lips. Same on this side. We see the entire gum over here. And again, we want you to be aware that the front teeth are a bit bigger than the other ones, the canines and the other names for teeth. This is another part of the anatomy I just don't know much about, I'm afraid. And then one trick I also use when drawing teeth is I look for the dark areas of the inside of the mouth to help me figure out where those teeth end. So you've got a little bit of a space there. You've got a slightly larger space over here. And artists will talk about using negative space. That's when you use the areas of darkness, not the areas of light. So you can kind of see what I'm doing there. It kind of helps determine where the teeth are without actually drawing the lines in with them. Again, I find drawing the lines just makes it a little bit too in your face. We want it to be subtle. We don't want the effect to be lost in the detail there. So you can see it really coming together nicely there. It's, again, a little bit rough at this point. You have to add make some adjustments here and there, but you can kind of see how that just gets you started. And once again, blending stomp, I find that the pointed tip is very helpful. This one's a little bit rough. Let's see if that turns out. Okay, there we go. Just because, again, the pencil line is just a little bit too dark. We want something a bit more subtle for the teeth. I hope you found that video enjoyable. I'm going to post a picture of how the end result turns out, which will be much better because of all the different shading right here. I hope you have a fantastic day.